King Agamemnon combines the Greek kingdoms in 1184 BC. Although he fights for Agamemnon, Achilles, a valiant warrior, hates his oppressive reign. In the meantime, Menelaus, king of Sparta, and Prince Hector of Troy and his brother Paris negotiate a peace agreement. Paris smuggles Queen Helen, Menelaus' wife, onto his ship headed home after they have an affair. Menelaus confronts his older brother Agamemnon in a fit of rage and requests his assistance in taking Troy. Agamemnon concurs since he would gain control of the Aegean Sea if he were to defeat Troy. Odysseus, king of Ithaca, is sent by Agamemnon to convince Achilles to accompany them. Achilles reluctantly seeks out his mother Thetis, who informs him that although he will never return home, he will attain immortal fame if he travels to Troy. He will live a long life if he stays, but his name will be forgotten. When Hector and Paris arrive home to Troy, King Priam greets Helen and makes the decision to get ready for battle. Thanks in major part to Achilles and his Myrmidons, the Greeks eventually assault and capture the Trojan shore. Achilles takes Briseis, a priestess and Paris and Hector's cousin, as a prisoner and has the temple of Apollo looted. After Agamemnon ruthlessly pulls her away from him, he becomes enraged and resolves not to support Agamemnon throughout the siege. As everything is going on, the Trojans gather all 25,000 of their soldiers and decide how to respond to the Greek assault. Paris declares he will fight Menelaus for the right to Helen after General Glaucus places his faith in Troy's army and the fortitude of their fortifications, while others advocate for diplomacy. Outside of Troy, the Greek and Trojan forces clash. At a parley, Paris offers to spar Helen and the city in exchange for a personal combat with Menelaus. Agamemnon agrees since he still plans to capture the city. In violation of the duel, Menelaus injures Paris and nearly kills him before Hector kills him. The Greeks are ordered to defeat the outnumbered Trojan army by an infuriated Agamemnon. Hector defeats Ajax in a single fight in the next conflict, and Troy's battle-hardened army causes thousands of Greek losses, compelling Agamemnon to flee. For the pleasure of the Greek warriors, he hands Briseis over to them, but Achilles rescues her. Later that evening, Briseis enters Achilles' room covertly with the intention of killing him, but instead she falls in love with him. Then, much to the chagrin of his cousin and protege Patroclus, Achilles decides to depart from Troy. Hector protests, but Priam gives him the order to assault the Greeks. Hector fights and kills a guy he thinks is Achilles in combat, only to find out it was Patroclus. Both armies, distraught, decide to halt their battle for the day. After learning of his cousin's passing, Achilles swears vengeance. Hector reveals a hidden passage beneath Troy to his wife Andromache out of fear of Achilles. He gives her instructions to remove their child and any survivors to Mount Ida in the event that he passes away and the city collapses. The following day, Achilles confronts Hector outside of Troy. Achilles brings Hector's body back to the Trojan beach after the two fight until Hector is killed. Sneaking into the camp, Priam begs Achilles to return Hector's body so that it might be properly buried. Achilles, embarrassed by what he has done, consents and lets Briseis and Priam return to Troy, pledging a 12-day truce to allow for the peaceful execution of Hector's funeral. And he tells his guys to go home without him. No matter the cost, Agamemnon says he will capture Troy. Anxious, Odysseus devises a scheme to sneak inside the city. He orders the Greeks to construct a massive wooden horse as a sacrifice and leave the Trojan shore, concealing their vessels in a neighboring cove. Priam gives the command to bring the horse inside the city. The sack of Troy begins that night when Greeks concealed inside the horse emerge and let the Greek army into the city. When the Trojan warriors try to defend their city, they are overpowered and slain, and the majority of the populace is either killed or sold into slavery. Paris hands Aeneas the sword of Troy and gives him instructions to guard the Trojans and find them a new home, while Andromache and Helen lead surviving into the tunnel to safety while the lower city is being looted. Glaucus leads the last Trojan soldiers in a valiant final struggle as the Greek army breaches the palace walls. Despite their valiant resistance, the Trojans are ultimately destroyed. After killing Priam, Agamemnon enters the palace, catches Briseis, who then murders him. After battling his way across the city, Achilles meets up with Briseis. Paris aims multiple arrows into Achilles' torso after shooting one through his heel in an attempt to exact revenge on his brother. After removing all the arrows except the one that went through his heel, Achilles says goodbye to Briseis and watches her go away with Paris before passing away. Achilles is then given a burial, and Odysseus cremates his remains.